Got another term on there, VGQ. What does that mean? Victims Guaranteed Qualification. Now, that keeps you from getting in arguments with other black people, particularly on television, which I get sick of that. Black people shouting. You know, we get into our ghetto thing once we get on television and get wound up. And we start all yelling at once. And the racists sit there smugly and just look. They watch the tennis match, so to speak. Right? And black people are shouting each other down, talking about, you don't know what you're talking about, and so and so and so and so, and we go into our Amos and Andy and Sapphire Act. Okay? VGQ means Victims Guaranteed Qualification. Guaranteed qualification to do what? To give your opinion on anything about race. Don't care what it is. If you're on there with Minister Farrakhan, or you're on there with Mike Tyson, or you're on there with Miss, what's her name, Williams, the lady that had him put in, recommended that he be put in jail, or you're on there with anybody. So you don't cut the other black person down. Now, I don't even like that term brother and sister, even though it's been around for about 30 years. But I ain't going to talk about the brother here, no. See, we haven't reached that stage where we can do that. See, we got to crawl before we walk, but we don't miss any steps. Don't say you are what you're not. Don't say you feel something that you don't really feel. You don't really feel that he's a brother. I usually use the expression, I don't like anybody in here. I say that to all audiences. I haven't been taught to like anybody. I've been taught to dislike people. I've been taught that. And then they're taught to dislike me, so it's just compounded disliking. I haven't even got to love yet. All right? So what we do is minimize conflict, try not to hurt each other. So a certain thing, that's what a code is for. It's a stopgap. It keeps me from saying something against you. You say, well, don't you agree with what this person just said down here on the other end and whatnot? That person has VGQ, Mr. Donahue. I keep using him because he's one of the most prominent TV people. Right? But the main thing you do is try to stay off of a radio program or TV program or even a neighborhood stage program, you might say, where you spend your time shouting back and forth at other black people. Nothing is getting done there. And when it's done on television, a lot of black people just get up from the TV set and go on in the kitchen somewhere. Once that shouting starts. Yeah, they get disgusted. They say, oh, here we go. They started off okay, but now they're doing a job on each other, and I don't even want to hear it. So just don't do it. And you cut it off. The cutoff point is that person has Victims Guaranteed Qualification. You spell it out what it means. Meaning the person can say anything about race that they want to, and I can say anything about it that I want to. You are guaranteed that. You earn that as a victim. Simply by being a victim. Now, if a white person says something, that's something else.
Context of white supremacy. Gus T. Renegade in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the global system of white supremacy. Today's date, Wednesday, February 5, 2025. So I have been told. Decals again for non-white people, victims of white supremacy, just like the code book for victims of white supremacy, non-white people, to learn what white supremacy racism is and how it works. Wow. I guess for folks who've not heard, have to remember from way back when. So if people are driving or doing something that might be potentially unsafe, maybe if you're driving, you can slow down. If you have one of those newfangled Elon Musk vehicles, you can let the autonomous driving feature take over, so you don't have to be holding the wheel, or you can park, pull over. There's got to be a Starbucks, get my 206 plug in. You can pull over. That way you don't have to be on the road, anything like that. I'm saying this because back in 2016, I remember we were on the air and announced within 24 hours or so after Dr. Welsing passed, and I remember reporting that at the beginning of the program, and a few people, I think many folks did know by the time we got on the air, but not everybody. So there were some people who were finding out live or even listening from the archives about the passing of Dr. Welsing some years back from listening to the C.O.W.S archives. And I remember specifically someone who said that they were on the road and almost had an accident, and man, got to do trigger warning. So get to the side, park, all of that. Certainly many folks are aware. It was reported yesterday, February 4, that Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., victim of white supremacy, passed away on Friday. It was reported yesterday, though, via Talktainment and Mr. Bobby. Lots of folks reported and were posting their really gratitude, I will have to say, for all of the decades of attempted counter-racist labor from Mr. Fuller, but reportedly, haven't seen anything to contest, passed away this past Friday, born in 1929. So, I mean, he almost lived to 100. I kind of just feel like we should round up, right? 100. A full century, basically, of or I guess he would say being a victim of white supremacy. He did say that directly. It is on the front of the book. I did hear him say that many, 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 many times over many, many years. Victim of white supremacy. Neely Fuller Jr., but put in just, wow, all of those years in talking to lames like myself and many, 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 all of the non-white people all over the known universe. Mr. Fuller had his number in the phone book and readily available online. Did radio programs for years, might even be able to say decades on that one too, where phone number is out there. Here it is. Give me a ring. Let me know. And it was in the front of the book. I have to look to see if it's in the front of the Word guy too, but it was in the front of the code book, his phone number, for decades. People would call numerous, I mean, oh my goodness, the list of non-white people, victims of racism, even some who were not classified as black, but victims of racism, non-white people still, who called him from all over the known universe. I'm trying to get a book. I'm about to be fired. These racist men, they getting... And the hours of time, like, oh my goodness, if it would be possible, I guess he did a lot of his talking prior to having like digital phone records and all that, and newfangled iPhones. But man, if you could get a call log of the amount of time missed, like just all of the phone calls, and then all of the international area codes, country codes, and all of that, and then the amount of minutes and hours that he spent talking to victims of white supremacy that he didn't even know, calling from all over. I'm in Seattle, Washington, opposite side of the continent. He would call, man, the summer leading up to when the C.O.W.S came on the air. That's 2007. We first came into existence on the radio at the University of Washington. That summer, we would call Mr. Fuller, and I say we because it was like a group of us, non-white people. We would call Mr. Fuller like 3-4 times a week. We'd be on speakerphone. Now, some of these were like majestic conversations because it was summertime, and we'd be on the campus of the University of Washington. Beautiful weather. I mean, just wow. UW campus is gorgeous. We could go lay out. And then it's not that many students here in the summertime. So, I mean, it is really peaceful, and we would just go stretch out. There were days we talked to Fuller like on speakerphone for 3 hours, 4 hours. That was like the whole summer of '07, where we, would go over different concepts, be confused about things, terms, like, man. And in fact, that summer, just because I've had so many victims of racism say, I'm influenced by Fuller and I'm on by Fuller. And one thing I'm going to tell you, Gusty, you are no Neely Fuller Jr., because not all white people are racist. Yeah. That summer, matter of fact, it was autumn. Season switch. So summer, boom, 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 boom. By autumn, C.O.W.S comes into existence. By November, and I think this was right after we had admitted racist Timothy Wise as a guest on the program. Then we had admitted racist Pharaoh Winfrey as a guest on the program the first time, respectively. They've been back each in the archives. And I called Mr. Fuller, and I said, man, I think white equals racist. I mean, it just ain't no such thing as a white person that is not racist. When we get down to the come down, like in a functional sense, you got racists, victims, and that's it. Fuller did not jump up and down and what? Get what? Fuller said, "Yep." And we moved on to talk about something else. And we'll know, in a functional sense, yep, that is. I've had way more non-white people who've groused and jumped up and down and all that. I never had that with Fuller. Never. Even if he had said, whatever. I don't know what the disagreement would be. Oh, well, nah. But that's not how it went. And that was a speakerphone conversation too, where the response was, yep. Any hoodles, alls I can say, robust, gargantuan appreciation. I guess generally there'd be a little bit of sadness and, man, he's not here and can't hear him or call him or whatever, if he wanted to do another addition to the code book or, just to hang out for even if he said, I'm retiring from counter racism, I'm done, it's lame talking about all this, y'all got it, I'm going to go kick it with my family, fish, and, I don't know, watch the Redskins, got it together, man, I'm going to watch the Redskins. That Jaden Daniels, I like that boy, I'm going to watch the Redskins. Well earned. Like, right on. If he had wanted to kick his feet up and do that, enjoy, man. Get it, Jaden Daniels. But just robust appreciation and gratitude because, but that's the question. Even when I felt like I was leaning into be sad, or now really, what more did you want to extract from the victim of white supremacy, Neely Fuller Jr.? Lay it out. What did you want? You wanted them to live to 130? You wanted them to write out, give us a book that explained it. He did that. Well, wait a minute, maybe you need to update the book. He did that. Maybe you could lay out some of these terms we need to be careful about. He did that. I'm a little lazy and TV is kind of good right now, fellas. So maybe you can, I'm not reading all that. Maybe you can just break it down into 10 things that I could. He did that. What more could you possibly? No, I just needed a little teaspoon more. But man, he literally has left hundreds of hours of recordings throughout the decades. We have an accumulation here. Throughout articles, books, video. I saw poet Danny Queen guest on the C.O.W.S. He had videos on YouTube previously. You can actually see Fuller and talking about his concepts. They're still online. All of this concept, you can go to producejustice.com, get your book or books, give them away for Black History Month. But I mean, really, it's a lot of white people, racists, don't get to live that long to practice racism. He got a full century and did not waste it. I even thought that too. Like, man, robust gratitude. That's all it should be. Like standing ovation, robust gratitude. Mr. Fuller, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's get to work and solve the problem. Maybe, just maybe, if we, Fuller meant something and all that, follow the logic, still learning all my Fullerisms, maybe we can stop name calling black people. These old tethers around here. Oh, yeah, that's right, Fuller. I'm on. These tethers would get it, but I'm on the Fuller. I'm on the. Okay. No name calling. I'm with these coons. Okay. Victims. We got Fuller. I'm gonna work on it. We gonna see. We gonna not tether. Coon. It's quite a. I'm gonna have to. Fuller, I'm on. Okay, we gonna get serious. I'm gonna get that together. No name calling black people. That's hard. Boy, I love culture. Woo. All right, Fuller. We gonna. I'm gonna at least give you a month. Can we do that? If Fuller really, he meant something and he touched your spirit, he had at least a few, funny things to say. Helped you understand racism. You flipped through his book. You heard talktainment. 30 days. Can we do 30 days? No name calling black people. No name call. You don't have to do the whole 10 stops. I mean, that might be asking a lot. But we can no name calling black people. Can we do that for 30 days? We'll see. Just 30 days, If you really, Leroy, and really got him, like, boy, 30 days. We give him a reprieve for 30 days, and then if we really got to get back on and coon you, boy, all right. But we give Fuller 30 days, no name calling black people. I'm even still cheating because Fuller said no name calling, period. I'm just, hey, can we, baby steps, no name calling black people. Let's see. Anywho, but I guess that might be asking a lot. At minimum, it still should be robust appreciation, gratitude for Neely Fuller Jr. I know myself personally, I just said we took so much of his time. Like if Fuller had wanted to, that summer of 2007 specifically, if he had wanted to watch the Redskins and I get it together, man, catch me again. Man, we annoyed him all summer long. Like if he was trying to watch preseason games or what the team gonna look, man, they have interrupted all. I can't even watch a game in peace. That's Seattle, that's on the other side of the world. But come on, man, y'all don't even have the book, which is true. We were a little late, but we got it together. But man, all of the time and energy for decades of him chatting it up about all kinds of things and Jesse Lee Peterson. Remember him in the archives? He invited me to be a guest on his program. I was like, I don't know. Like, man, conflict with victims of racism. Didn't Fuller talk about that all the time? I said, I'm not going in here to squabble and argue with no Jesse Lee Peterson. And Fuller said, well, you don't have to argue, just go chat it up. BGQ, nothing to argue about. The problem is white people, yes. So I went and chatted up. Matter of fact, I remember, one of the worst experiences I can remember in the cows. We had Dr. Shahrazad Ali, victim of white supremacy. She was a guest on the program the second time around. This was the summer of 2013. And we talked. This was right after the murder trial, Trayvon Martin murder trial. Dr. Ali had been on CNN pretty much every day. I think, no hyperbole. I think she was on CNN every day throughout that summer because they were having all those big panels and discussions about the trial and what happened and blah, blah, blah. And they would have other black people on to like argue with her, racial showcasing type thing. Anyway, we had Dr. Ali on once the whole trial was over to talk about, that experience, the trial too, of course, but then the whole CNN component of it and blah, blah, blah. So we talked about that for the whole program. Dr. Ali leaves. We did the whole 2-hour program, all that. She leaves, and we're just kind of talking about some of the tidbits. We talked about talking about this with your children, all that. And Mr. Nero, regular caller at that time, black male, dials in, and he's talking about conflict between black males and black females and beating on black females. I'll wear out. And I'm stunned because we had not talked about any of that. Dr. Ali has written about that and that specifically, putting hands on and all that. But we didn't talk about any of that. We were talking about Trayvon Martin. So I'm confused, like, what in the world? And just like, where did this even come from, right? And so all these listeners are mad, and I've never listened to the Couch again. Gus, you're the lamest coon in the history of the world. And I'm calling Mr. Fuller like, what? I can't believe this even happened. Like, all these dudes dialed in, and they're mad, talk about their experience with black females, and all this. Man, Mr. Fuller said, where do you live again? Oh, that's right. You're out in Seattle. Black brother, you need to get on a bus or a plane and come back to see your cousins. Go to Chicago and just ride the bus around where the black people live, or come to D.C. where I live. Just walk around the neighborhood where the black people live, Philadelphia, wherever they have a good population of black people. That is us all day, every day. He said, whatever you heard, them arguing, whatever you heard, that's us every day. You are just out in Seattle and you're not around us. Come back to D.C. You don't even have to stay for a long time. Just come for a day or two and ride the bus. And just listen to what the black people are talking about. He said, you will not be surprised. That is not shocking. That is black people. Whew. He did help pick my head up that day, because I did feel like, I thought I told you that run the other way, minimize conflict. Like we talked about all that. He said, oh yes, Seattle. Yes, you must be spoiled and you're not around black people and all that, but woof, just go hang out. And we should have said, just go to L.A. Any hoodles, but man, robust appreciation for decades, right? Can't even play it cheap. A century. Being on his assignment. Fuller could have been chasing liquor, chasing women, and all that. Watching the Redskins, he could have been a sports addict like a lot of us black males. And as opposed to all those years and time studying attempted counter-racism science, he could have been studying the Washington Wizards, Washington Redskins. They got a baseball team. He could have been doing that. I'm an expert. Go all the way back to Wes Unseld days. Thank the Creator. That is not what we got. On his assignment. All the way through. For decades. No break. On his assignment. ProduceJustice.com. Get the book or books. Like I said, you can give them out, gifts. Black History Month or whatever else. Folks that still do birthday celebrations, or if they have offspring, whatever the case, folks can add that if they're trying to build a library together, constructive text. There you go. Folks that are looking for audio information, you can pile together some of his best audio recordings, different lectures and concepts that he talked about first time, last time. You could put a little thumb drive together. Somebody's taking a road trip or what have you. I know some folks might have spring break plans coming up, summer plans coming up. If you're going to drive somewhere, what have you, there you go. We'll listen to this as we drive or even as we fly, right? Go to work out at the gym. Heard that from callers over the years when they go work out, go hop on the treadmill or whatever for an hour at the gym. You could listen to Drake and Beyonce or have a little Fuller playing. Something constructive. Anywhoodles, let's see. Mandatory, because I did say, folks might say, look here, I don't do all that reading. Book's kind of heavy. I'm looking at the word guy. That's kind of thick. I'm not going to. Already told you we got Super Bowl coming up on Sunday, man. I got serious TV watching to do. So I'm not going to be doing all that reading. Can just break it down into 10 things that really get to the essence of what Fuller would be talking about. 10 stops. I'd like to move it up, put name calling first, but that's not how it was written. So stop snitching. Telling on other non-white people victims of racism for personal gain, specifically. Stop name calling. 30 days? Can we make 30-day commitment? No name calling? Just 30 days. Just 30 days. Just for Fuller. No name calling. That's one thing I can say. That stood out so much when I first heard Mr. Fuller talk about racism, white supremacy. Not just that he didn't name call other non-white people or white people, but that everybody was named properly. It was never, even if it was another non-white person that had a different perspective or what have you, it was never name calling or what have you. It was just whatever the person's name is, Mr. Leroy, Mr. Johnson, Miss Lakeisha. That's what it was every time. And that was so different from all the Coon, Tavern, Sambo, all that. Like, wow, I have being serious about this and even being courteous, especially with other non-white people, which is sorely lacking, I would say, especially when we talk about racism, white supremacy. Stop cursing. Hopefully something has been employed on this here broadcast for most of the 16 years. Not all, but most of the time. I think, yeah, we had a child co-host here for years. So, yeah, I think we've been pretty G-rated the vast majority of the time, and certainly not cursing out filth, foreign, other black people. Stop being discourteous. Now, I would say that is pretty rife, as I said, amongst the name calling, the interrupting. It is rife. I would say generally non-white people are not very courteous with me. I make an effort to leave non-white people alone. I do not seek non-white people out for any reason, unless I have something constructive that they've asked for, what have you, but I do not. That's exactly codification. I leave non-white people alone. Non-white people do not agree with my views on racism, white supremacy, and they don't have to. I don't go to force them on other victims of racism and show them how they're wrong, in quotes, just because they have a different opinion. I leave them alone. But I have noted non-white people, we generally are not very courteous with other non-white people, even many of us who are familiar with Mr. Fuller's concepts. Like I said, you got to beg, can we please stop name calling? Stop stealing. Self-explanatory. Stop robbing. Self-explanatory. Stop fighting. Now, I contend the name calling is connected to the fighting, because normally you don't just get to, dropping the bionic elbow smash and all the rest of it before I got a no count coon and, or black coon. Even worse, we got to do the name calling. So, stop killing, again, all connected, minimizing conflict with non-white people, and stop squabbling. So much of this, and I've heard him talk about so much of the 10 stops are organized around minimizing conflict amongst non-white people. That is mandatory in order to maintain a system of white supremacy racism. And I think Mr. Fuller did such a tremendous job, not just talking that, walking that for decades, nearly a full century. Like, I can't think ever of Mr. Fuller having conflict and doing a program to talk bad about these non-white people that he didn't agree with, or I got to call them names, or they did this, or they said this about my book or my theories. Like, I've never heard him engage in any of that. Matter of fact, I said, it was about 2 years ago, it was a listener who wrote me unsolicited to name call Kirk Franklin. The singer? Yes. The singer. Has he ever been a guest on the couch? No. No, he has not. Do you have contact with Kirk? No, I don't have no contact with Kirk Franklin. I don't know nothing about Kirk Franklin, but random non-white people contact me to name call Kirk Franklin. You don't even get a VGQ on that one. And then they couldn't be content with that. They said, oh, well, you know, Fuller do the same thing. He sit around and name call people and y'all sit around and chuckle about it. Man, I didn't do no name calling or nothing, but I said, buddy, Charlie Floyd, you going to stand by your work. Evidence right now. Where did you hear some Neely Fuller Jr. do some name calling of a non-white person, and then there was a group of other victims, they sat around and chuckled about this? Where? And I never heard from Charlie Fuller Jr. again. Charlie Floyd. I never heard from him again. That's what I mean, oh, nonsense. Like, come on. I never heard such conduct from Fuller, although I have heard that sort of nonsense. We start up making it up and, well, I heard Fuller. No, come on. Out of all those hundreds of hours of content, I have never heard no name calling of Fuller. In fact, he's one of the only, other than Dr. Welsing, non-white people that I've heard say, hey, explicitly, don't do no name calling. We want to minimize conflict. Call people what they want to be called. And wrote it out in a book and everything. No name calling. Minimize conflict with non-white people. Any hoodles. So much access. And he gave away books. He did the phone calls, I would say, is like, I cannot emphasize that enough because that is just not my personality. There's no way in the world I would put out my phone number, even if somebody gave me like a free Apple i20 phone. And, you know, hey, here you go, rock and roll, just answer as many phone calls. You know, you don't have to run out of the bathroom or get out of bed if you're asleep type thing. But, you know, if it's 9 a.m., you know, answer the phone call, help them out if you can, see what they're talking about, that sort of thing. 5 p.m., answer the phone call and, you know, be as helpful as you can. There is no way in the world. I think I would have maybe I don't think I would get through a week. And then is people from all over the world too. Sometimes people classified as white, they would call them too. I think I'd maybe get through a week and I would be giving that phone back. It would be disconnected, throwing it in the lake, something like that. Or I'd have been violating the 10 stops because I'd have been cursed. Look here, Coon, don't you call this phone. I mean, I'm not doing it. I mean, because people would call just to argue too, man. You don't know what you're talking about, fella. All this, like, are you serious? Are you serious? I'm a victim of white supremacy, born in Muskogee, Oklahoma. You can call me. It's my fault. It's my fault. And I'm a senior. Come on, man. If you don't agree with my views, well, guess what, buddy? Get busy. Double so now. Any hoodles, it's like racks of some of my, I won't say favorite, but moments that I will certainly recall where I think Fuller may have had something constructive to offer. He did so many different, talks and lectures and such throughout the known universe. Just there are racks of them. I was even thinking amongst just my personal, the recordings we have here at the C.O.W.S and such, I'm not sure I could listen to all of this. It would take months of like not doing anything else, just all day long. Listen to Fuller, much less going to get all of the audio recordings that are out in the universe. So, man, he left a treasure trove of material. If anything, I would say, hey, collate, transcribe, try to organize as much of it as possible so that non-white people, hopefully we get this problem solved quickly, so it can just be going back and appreciating and being grateful for all of his hard labor. But if we're slack on our assignment and it takes decades or more for us to get this problem solved, yes, get that material archived, organized, make it as easy as possible so that people can do keyword searches for specific concepts or parts of his counter-racist codification, or key political events if they want to hear what Fuller had to say about President Obama, President Trump, Hurricane Katrina, that sort of thing. Make it very easy so folks can go and find those specific audio segments. I know for us here at the C.O.W.S, you can go to Podchaser, podchaser.com. I link there pretty regularly, but you can go to Podchaser and they have a specific search feature. So if you go to the C.O.W.S podcast at Podchaser, I'll link it on social media, you'll see at the very top they have a search bar. If you click the search bar, you could just put in Fuller and all of the broadcasts where Fuller has visited us will pop up. Now, it is a lot of them, so you have to scroll back like dozens. So you have to scroll back over a long period of time to, catch all of them. But that is an easy way that you can begin. I think those programs are also on YouTube as well, and Apple Podcasts, other places where you listen to your podcasts. But I would, that's why I've been asking for archivists for the C.O.W.S material for years, make sure we don't lose any of Mr. Fuller's content or other folks who visited. I think all of Mr. Fuller's visits are uploaded in the archives for people to access, share, other folks so they can hear all of the information that he left with us to solve the problem. One of my favorites, way back 2011, so I guess that'd be a little over 11 years at this point, or a little over 12 years at this point. Is it 13? Wow, the time is rolling that fast. A little over 13 years, man. Anyway, a little at the end of 2011, December specifically, Mr. Fuller was here. Just our use of time and energy. There's so many like little things that Mr. Fuller would talk about that are important. It would seem like they're small, but they're really important for us making the changes that are necessary to solve this problem, us being non-white people, victims of white supremacy. But just our use of time and energy and making changes so that race soldiers, white people, are not always just dominating how we use our time and energy, and for the most non-constructive nonsense, watching the Super Bowl. That type of thing. But this is one of my all-time favorites of Mr. Fuller's visits to the context of white supremacy from December 2011. How we use our time and energy to gather Zapsters.
I know you. I know your father, your grandfather. I had them in chains. You can get in each other's face. You can run around with your little 9mm killing each other. Don't you get in my face at all. I'll let you talk and act. Sometimes let you talk and act tough to me. But remember, I'm letting you do this. Because I don't have to let you do anything, including breathing. And there's nothing can stop me. And you don't know anybody who's big enough to do it. So quit acting. And that's what I say in the books that I've written. We need to stop being actors. We're always talking about keeping it real. That's black people in the Northwestern Hemisphere. But we're the most unrealistic people on the planet. quietly looked upon as a bunch of jokes. But people talk nice to us because they don't want to be bothered with us. They'll talk nice, but at the same time in their thoughts, they couldn't think anything else except these people are just about completely worthless as any creatures can possibly be. And how do I say that? I'm talking about this is the voice of the white supremacists now, because I have made them that way. The only way they get to be worth anything is when I make them worth something. I tell them what they're worth. They don't know. They don't even know what to do with themselves when they get up in the morning, except what I tell them. Go here, go there. That's the only time they make sense. Other than that, they don't know anything. And proof of it is I can say, hey, I'm going to make some hats out of hubcaps. I got surplus hubcaps in my warehouse on some cars that I haven't even manufactured yet. And I don't know what to do with those surplus hubcaps. I don't want to throw them away. I got millions of them. But I got a bunch of black people out there who are just looking for something to do. They don't know what to do. They just look at this great big universe, a great big world, look up and down the streets. They don't know what to do or where to go at any given moment. So I always, as usual, find something for them to do. So the next thing I'll do is the little money I've allowed them to have, I'm going to take these hubcaps that I ordinarily would put on some cars, and I'm going to say that they are no longer hubcaps, that they are hats. And I'll have all these millions of black people walking around with these hubcaps on their heads. And give it a fancy name like Zapsters. And people will be asking, what's a Zapster? Hey, man, that's the new hats, man. I mean, you square. You don't know what's up. You don't know. You haven't bought you a Zapster yet? $800 a piece, man. I got two of them. My buddy got them at a discount. He works over there where they got the stuff stored. And some white supremacists, about 23 years old, right out of college, thought up the idea. We'll sell them to the black people. We don't have to throw them away. Call them Zapsters. What's a Zapster? That's a hat that black people wear. That's their identifying thing. They always need something to identify themselves with, as if their skin color doesn't identify them enough. They always got to have something artificial, something that I made up. Or if they make it up, I'll be the one who will control it, and I'll sell it to them for the little money that I allow them to have, and have them out here killing each other to have them. And a name like Zapster would be appropriate, too, because they'd be zapping other black people trying to get them. Put 5 shots in somebody and grab that Zapster. Keep it in the closet for about a week and then come out wearing it. A hubcap. That's the way millions of us think, rather than say, wait a minute. I'm not doing nothing of the kind. I'm not going out and buying none of that stuff. I'm not going to even wear it if they give it to me. I'm going to start doing some thinking for the first time in my existence on my own.
Context of white supremacy. I don't know what Fuller talking about. I'm wearing my Zapster right now. Platinum color too, man. $800 a piece. They give me 3 of them. I'm wearing all 3 of them. One of my favorites all time. Neely Fuller Jr. Robust appreciation for indefatigable, right? Full century of counter-racist labor. Like I said, didn't take no holidays. I never heard that. He said, I've been doing all this counter-racism talk for a minute. I'm gonna take this year off. I'm not, just gonna put my feet up and enjoy life. Maybe take me a cooking class. I don't know. Do a little traveling. I never heard that. He was on the counter-racist grind all the time. And even the audio certainly is there in terms of Neely Fuller Jr., where you can go back and hear all of these different radio programs and such that he lectures and podcasts that he did for decades, really like a century's worth, seriously. And then there are written reports as well, going back like a good half century of different talks and things that he gave throughout this part of the world at least. I was checking today. I'd seen some from previously, but I was just checking different resources today. And the Spectrum, this is a New York paper. Apparently, Neely Fuller Jr., he went to Western New York. I think it may have been close to Buffalo. But he went to Western New York State, and he did a talk there for Black History Month, 1990. I posted this online earlier. I made an error. I said this is 45 years ago. It was 35 years ago, but the date for the article, February 1990, is accurate. My math was just 10 years off, 35 years instead of 45. Strive for accuracy. That's it. The jewel was finding the report, yes. And so they had a litany of different reports. I thought it was interesting because this is from February 12, 1990. The article is Neely Fuller speaks out against white supremacy, but the article above it, FBI uses covert activities to silence activists. Speakers reveal personal struggles against tactics. And it says, the subtitle, it says, you saw signs that said white only and colored here. And I, as a human being, couldn't sit still and stand for that. And it goes on about CIA and FBI burglaries and... Anyway, I didn't know what to say about that, but that is the report that is directly above the article. Neely Fuller speaks out against white supremacy. Black Student Union continued its celebration of Black History Month Thursday night with a speech by Neely Fuller Jr. Fuller lectured the audience on his theory of white supremacy and suggested methods of combating it. His code for dealing with white supremacist system is expressed in his book, The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. Racism is white supremacy, and white supremacy is racism, Fuller said. He stressed that he believes white supremacy is the most powerful force in the world and that its basic tools are deceit and violence. A person that believes in white supremacy uses words to practice deceit, Fuller said. That's what the Indians meant when they said the white man speaks with a forked tongue. The example Fuller gave was that of a white man and an Indian chief sitting together with a bottle of liquor. The Indian chief was convinced that it was just a gesture of friendship, but the white man had politics on his mind to take the chief's land once he was drunk. Peace equation. Fuller said he believes the only way to overcome this deceit is to have truth, plus justice, plus correctness, which he said equals peace. If a racist used falsehood, you would use truth. He instructed peace, he argued, cannot come without justice and correctness. The purpose of white supremacy, Fuller said, is white supremacy. It's not to get land, and it's not to get money. White supremacy is an end in itself. Throughout his lecture, Fuller repeatedly challenged a captive audience, saying anything and everything said about race should be questioned. Fuller insisted he's not preaching racism. Racism is a pure science, he said. He said he feels that in order to challenge it more effectively, one must be scientific. Fuller mentioned that there was no such thing as white music or black music. He states if you think constructive thoughts behind any sound, that's music. But if it interferes with what you're trying to do, that's noise. He called for a moratorium on interracial sex, saying that he doesn't use that word interracial, but whatever, saying that sex was the most influential thing in the world next to white supremacy. Holocaust in the streets. He labeled the influx of drugs in the black community as a chemical war incited by racists. 10,000 people die annually in drug-related deaths, according to some reports. There is a Holocaust going on in the streets, and the drugs are coming from the racists, Fuller continued. He connected that the money behind most of the drugs is controlled by white supremacists. True. He accused anyone who is associated with the transport of drugs of being a racist war criminal and should be prosecuted as a war criminal, i.e. the death penalty. If a white banker in Switzerland knew there was a death penalty connected with money laundering, he would think twice about doing it, Fuller explained. According to Fuller, the only way blacks and whites can have a quality relationship is through absolute truth. Fuller also said every black person's mission should be to eliminate white supremacy on the way to producing justice. Now, you got to be joking there. Mission? What? What? Who? That might be your mission, Fuller. My mission. Get $1 million? I don't know. What's the average black person that you talk to? If you say, what is your mission in life? What's their answer going to be? If I had to wager, that's not my answer. I think that's what the most common response would be. Some version of, And I think that would be probably any age group, like 15, 55, 105. What is your mission? Or if they're old enough, if they're, maybe they're about Mr. Fuller's age, they're in their 90s, 100 years old. What do you think your mission in life has been? And did you do that? I definitely don't think you're going to hear too many. My mission in life has been to replace white supremacy with justice. I mean, like, what? Who says that? Who says that? Neely Fuller Jr. Robust applause. That's all it can be. Robust applause. In closing, Fuller asks blacks not to spend time talking about heroes. Heroes, he said, are yet to be produced. The people that bring about justice will be the true heroes. Very well said. And I think he pretty much stuck to all of that because I've heard him articulate those same sentiments repeatedly. This is from 1990. This is from Black History Month, 1990. 35 years. Did I get my math correct this time? I think so. 35 years ago. Black History Month, and he almost hit it to the day because this is February 12th. So a week. That is crazy. Woo! It would have been next Wednesday, a week from today. It would have been 45 years to the date. Wow. And that's the publication, and then he was there a couple days before for the Black Student Union up in New York. I think this might have actually been Buffalo. I'm going to have to go see which state in Oh, wait a minute. There's 2 articles here. Let's see. So there was 2. Is this Buffalo? I'll do that at different times. I won't waste time. So the second report, because they had like a whole It caused such a stir. I guess Mr. Fuller went up there and cut such a fool in New York State that they had all these articles all throughout for the whole week, like he messed up their whole Black History Month. So this is a couple days later. This is February 16, 1990, same newspaper, The Spectrum. Fuller's lecture, Does Racism Exist on All Sides? On page 7 of The Spectrum on Monday, February 12, Desmond Dawkins, a staff writer, presented an article entitled Neely Fuller Jr. Speaks Out Against White Supremacy, Presents Equation for Peace. While I appreciate many of the fine points of Fuller's 3-hour talk and discussion, I cannot bring myself to agree with his overall stance. I think a less naive title for Dawkins' article would have been, Neely Fuller Refuses to Admit that Black People Too Can Have Attitudes of Racial Prejudice. What is that? Now, see, is this a white man who wrote this report? This is an op-ed. Thomas Milton Albert, Department of English. Thomas Milton Albert. Oh, this is Buffalo. Okay, we got that. This is Buffalo. Gotcha. In the second column of his article, Dawkins wrote 3 paragraphs that veil Fuller's intolerance of Caucasians. What does that mean? 1. Dawkins reproduces without critical scrutiny Fuller's claim that only a person employing scientific rigor can practice racism, whereas we all know that ignorant bigots, see, they ignorant bigots are racist too. The double whammy, we got bigots in there too. You can't have bigots unless they're ignorant, see. I do get the feeling, however, that Fuller wants blacks to become more scientific so that they too will have the power to practice discrimination against whites. When has he ever said that? Dawkins turns Fuller's authentically non-racist openness to the positive aspects of either white music or black music, but this proves nothing, since the victims of racism are not flatted quarter notes, but whole people. I don't know. Like, what? He's saying there's no such thing as white music, and that's what? Dawkins ignores the racial intolerance of Fuller's calling for a moratorium on interracial sex. See, my question is, can the promulgation of Fuller's attitudes facilitate the eradication of racism, or can they open sharper interracial hostilities? What Dawkins and Fuller called the Holocaust in the streets strikes me, after having visited 3 Nazi extermination camps, as a term used with something less than the scientific precision Fuller demands, just as Fuller's equation of white supremacy with racism constitutes a tautology that would allow blacks with impunity to be racists. Yeah, I guess. The 1922-43 fascist movement, named in honor of the ancient Romans, would be bundles. Fascis, F-A-S-C-I-S, sought to coalesce the people of Mussolini's Italy into a pack by recourse to a totalistic sense of nationalism predicated upon race. Today, and as long as the Ku Klux Klan and neo-Nazis continue to exist, one can and must denounce Aryan or white fascism. At the same time, we should welcome neither tokenism nor black fascism. What? Where's the black what is Kanye and what? Kyrie, Kyrie Irving wasn't even born when this was written. Like, what? Come on. There's a good reason for all citizens of this nation to be alarmed, regardless of the tint of their epidermis, that at the same time that more black faces are acquiring a profile of mass media corporations and university administration, an immensely larger mass of non-whites compose the minorities that form the silenced majority. What? In so many of our penitentiaries, that so many blacks are unable to attain or maintain middle-class status, and that so many persons of color drop out of sight due to their need to escape ills with chemical highs. I'll stop there, but he goes on to write quite a bit more. And I think the no sex with white people, oh, it does. It comes up again. I'm going to give you the last paragraph just because it comes up again, the sex thing. Neely Fuller's call for total moratorium upon interracial sex extended to those couples who are already married. Fuller said such couples should refrain from marital sex until the planet has become completely freed of all traces of racism, i.e. white supremacy. What shocks me is that here in quiet Buffalo, put that on Joey 22 and Peyton Gendron. Can I get one for Cynthia Wiggins? Can I get one for Cynthia Wiggins? because she was still alive when this was written. So Cynthia Wiggins was still with us. Peyton Gendron had not been born, and Joey 22 was still alive when this article was written. Black History Month 1990 in quiet Buffalo. There are a substantial number of human beings who applaud Fuller's views and who believe that simply because they do not happen to be 100% Caucasian, they are free from racism when they refuse to relate to other human beings as human beings and instead make facile prejudgments. I've never even, prejudgments. Do people say that? Prejudgments? Based on skin color. How can the Fullerites, come on, he said, that's name calling. That's name calling because I ain't never heard nobody say, I'm a Fullerite. Yes, I'm a Fullerite. How can the Fullerites hope to end prejudice by perpetuating it? Are we, whatever our pigmentation, sufficiently aware of the mounting temptation of black fascism? Are we too distracted by high visibility of mass media images that imply the entry of blacks into the melting pot to notice black youth's increasing radicalism and the dangerous potential of the gospel of scientific hatred that links Fuller and his followers to fascists? What in the world? Again, this is Thomas Milton Albert. I wish I had sent this to Fuller when he was still with us. I'm sure he would have got a kick out of this. But I mean, this is to be expected. Up at UB. That is fascinating. When I get back to Buffalo, I have to see, maybe they have a recording or audio of this talk. Fuller in Buffalo. And then, see there. Do you know I was in Buffalo in February in 2023. It was so cold. I remember it snowed repeatedly while I was there, but it was so cold. It was one night, it was like 13. It was something where it was getting close to like single digits. Like, I don't remember the last time. I mean, it just doesn't get, it snowed here today in Seattle. It's not let's see what's temperature. It's 35 degrees, okay? We don't have and that's like, whoa. Ooh, that's the coldest in the world for here. I mean, we just don't have really cold weather. This is about the coldest that it's been all winter long that I've been here, 35. It was like 13 degrees in Buffalo, and the people that I was around, they were saying, that ain't nothing, Brother Gus. You should have been here. Remember last month? Whew, it was 0. Or remember back in December when it was -5 and we had 6 feet of snow on the ground? And that's no hyperbole. They for real. It was -5 and they had 6 feet of snow on the ground. And Fuller went there to talk in the wintertime. I would have cried all day long. Like, ooh, I gotta go to Buffalo. I hope it's not gonna snow. I hope it's not like, I don't care what's my man name here, talking about I'm Negro fascist and my Fullerites and all that. Thomas Milton Albert, suspected racist in the Department of English, probably still up there, suspected race soldiering. But I wouldn't care nothing about none of that. Have me stuck up in Buffalo in the middle of the wintertime, man. Like, oh my God. Juice isn't even up there no more. I can't kick it with Rental James. Man. Anyway, all these from the Spectrum, and folks in New York State, or really anywhere, you can get all these reports, see what they had to say. And if you're in the Buffalo area, hey, field trip. Do they have recording, archive of Fuller's talk? 3 hours, they said, in Buffalo. That would be cool to hear. What he had to say, all this moratorium on interracial sex. See if any of the Fullerites got to give any kudos, any hoodles. Like I said, he left so much material. You can go back, check. You can, when I say you can go to the local library, see if you can find newspaper articles, audio recordings, all of the above. He left so much material. A lot of times when he would go places to do talks, they would have articles in the local paper like this. So he went to Chicago, LA. I found some in the LA Sentinel earlier today when he went out to LA to do his visits and such. Matter of fact, I can give 2 One, there are so many folks, right? We've been on for 16 years in terms of talking to people and reading their books, reading their material, their views on white supremacy, racism. Like, it is stunning for all of the different views and books and positions that Fuller's taken and different, things that I've talked to him about and such. There really are only like 3 things where I'm like, well, VGQ, I have a different opinion from Mr. Fuller. And that 3 is really like 2. I even have to explain why that is, but so what are the 3 that I'd say, no, I have a different opinion? VGQ, and that's supposed to be because we're different people, right? But the only 3 that I could say we have a different viewpoint, not all white people are racist, but I have to put an asterisk next to that one because I said, now I did ask him about that. We really only got racists and victims. And he said, functional sense? Yep. So, I mean, that's not even really 1. That's like 0.5. Okay. All questions are valid. That's another one. Have to put an asterisk next to that one. Now, 999 times out of 1,000, I'm with Fuller. 999 times out of 1,000, I'm with Fuller. All questions are valid. How many buttons does that have? Which way to Poughkeepsie? When we gonna replace white supremacy with justice? Jesus Christ. All questions is valid 999 times out of 1,000, but that one time, I can give you specific examples where I've said, see, that's what I mean. It'll be that one time. We had that victim. He called in for neutralizing workplace racism. And he said, his coworker, he said, hey, come over in the corner. He didn't ask out in public. Come over in the corner like we done some sort of drug transaction. Come over in the corner. Look here, Leroy. Let's see. Look here. What's the difference between a black person and a Negro? Break it down for me, Leroy. That's one where I say all questions ain't valid. VGQ, and I've seen that enough, where from time to time people do ask questions that are not valid, and they know this is not a valid question. I'm not trying to learn nothing about black people, niggers, none of the above. I'm practicing racism, or I have a different agenda, but it's not. I'm asking a legitimate question that I hope you'll answer. It's 999 times out of 1,000, Fuller is correct. He is correct. But I would say about 1 out of 1,000, you get one of those. And in fact, hey, our current president, he agrees with me. Not all questions is valid. And he says at every press conference, what kind of fool is you? I'm embarrassed. You come out and ask a dumb question like that. Now I don't take that position. Whoa. It's not that bad. We have different logic around it. But apparently our current president and I do agree. Not all questions are valid. We just have a different thought process around how we arrived at that. I'm generally with Fuller, though. Generally with Fuller. And the last, that's why I said it doesn't even count, because that's like a half and a half, so that's like 1. And then the only one that's like a real whole, Mr. Fuller, and I said this before, he said you can watch television and learn lots or all whatever about white supremacy, racism. No. I do not agree at all. I did watch Dancer, Texas, Population 81, but you cannot learn all there is to know about white supremacy, racism, not even close, by watching television. What television program is going to tell you about Jonestown? Facts. I could add a whole lot more to it, but I mean, we could stop there. What program is going to tell you about medical apartheid? I could keep piling them up. I take the other grandsister. She said reading is more important than watching television. And I just point out, I think that's a differential in education. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing is a medical doctor. She had substantially more education than Neely Fuller Jr. and myself combined. That's what I would expect from someone who has more education. Reading is more important than watching television. Yes, you can watch The Godfather or Shawshank Redemption or Dancer, Texas, Population 81, and you can learn about racism, white supremacy, but I mean, it's the same logic. I say the fiction section, we should not be allowed to read fiction at all. Talking about non-white people, I say, hey, when you go to reading is more important, reading non-fiction. We're so dumb and pitiful, and that's exactly what Fuller said. We should not even be allowed near the fiction section. They had the wildfires in California. I said Fuller was in the LA Sentinel talking about his visits out to California, lecturing on racism. I started reading a fiction book on the California wildfires. I started reading a nonfiction book. It was no comparison at all. Matter of fact, within one chapter, Rodney King popped up in the nonfiction book on California wildfires that ostensibly has nothing to do with racism. Rodney King popped up immediately. I'm still looking for Rodney in the work of fiction. Now, Rodney ain't supposed to be in the work of fiction ostensibly, I'm saying. But Rodney wasn't supposed to be in the environmental book either, I didn't think, but Rodney was there. Nonfiction. But that's it. That's what I'm saying. Like, for all, he wrote that big book and all that, and I don't really have no, gripes, and he messed it up. Like, well, it was on it. Accurate. Wow. Stunning. 3, and that's really more like 2. I mean, And most of the time, it's not even 2, because most of the time, questions are valid. Most of the time, I'm not with Trump. I'm not out there. What kind of coon is you to be at? That's most of the time, that is not the case. Robust gratitude, robust appreciation. Incidentally, I did see advertisements. I told you where Fuller went to the West Coast, bookstores, black bookstores and such, to give his presentations. Obviously, he had his book there. So he would go out there and do talks and all that. Phenomenal. I got some of those advertisements from the newspapers. Yeah, I guess you could make that a part of your research, right? To see if you can find some of the advertisements when he came to speak and all that. Again, maybe they have audio. Maybe they have video of some of these talks. And again, not that we need extra Fuller audio video. There's racks and racks and racks. But I mean, try to save as much as we can, posterity's sake. But when I saw that, the advertisements at some of the bookstores that he spoke with, one staggered me because I am Gus T. Renegade. I did tell you, and I've said this for a long time, I am estranged from C.O.W.S listeners, people classified as black. I live in Seattle. Non-white people in general. I've said that for a long time, right? I know people don't listen well. They don't listen to Gus T. I got it. But I've said that for a long time. This is nothing new. When I saw that, I said, oh, that's a part of why I'm estranged. One of the black bookstores, proprietors, where Mr. Fuller spoke, they came and blasted Gus T. publicly. You no count, no good, dirty, rotten, no count lames like you, causing us to go out of business. What did Gus do? I posted a link. There was a book on the Haitian Revolution written by a suspected racist, and I posted a link. People could download a free copy. And I didn't have any contact with this black bookstore. I've never visited this bookstore. It's not close to where I reside. It's about 1,000 miles away from my residence. And they flipped out. Wow. Now, There are people classified as white who've made whole websites where you can go and pirate, download these books, audiobook, PDF, ebook format, all of the above sometimes. Do you go and terrorize them? Like, I would have had no problem. Plug your bookstore and all that. We've had black book publishers, obviously, and black authors on the program for well over a decade. I would have had no problem at that, but that's not how they respond at me. Like I said, now, do you go at white people publicly who share and pirate all of this information? I don't even know if this is a book that they have in their circulation. Maybe they do. It certainly wasn't taking any money out of a black author's pocket, written by a white man. I certainly don't think it was published by any black people. But I remember they came at me like that. Like, why? And that's kind of what I expect. Why I am estranged? I don't even kick it. I have been saying explicitly, the people who say they're inspired, influenced by the work of the late Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, Grandcestor, I do not have contact. I do not fool with none of them. They do not value my work, the context of white supremacy. That's fine. I do not have contact. I do not fool with any of the individuals who say that they are inspired, motivated by, use the concepts of Neely Fuller Jr. I do not have contact with any of them. They do not value or support my work. I have said that at this point for at least a year, and it should have been longer. But I've said that for some time. This is nothing new. Even I said when Dr. Welsing passed, I remember it was multifold. There were people classified as black within days of her passing who came out. Ooh. I'm going to tell you, Uncle Tom's, one thing right now. You come out here talking bad and disparaging the name of our sister Queen Mother who transitioned. I will let a coon feel the wrath. I remember this. Like I said, this was days after Dr. Welsing passed. Like, whoa. When did Dr. Welsing talk about wrath to coons who disagree with her? When did she say that? But I remember this. Like, I remember Dr. Welsing talking about black self-respect, not wrath to the coon who disagree with Dr. Welsing. She ain't say nothing about that. But I remember this. I remember this conduct. I remember there was going to be, we'll do a publication, recognize, and just same thing I said with Fuller, appreciate, be grateful that we had all those years of Dr. Welsing where she was on her assignment. And I said, oh, let me see if I can, write something. And in fact, write something about her prediction that was true. Dr. Welsing, that Donald Trump gonna be president, that people snickered at and all that, wrote that report about her prediction before he won the White House. Black people approved, said we will include your writing in our memorial for Dr. Welsing, and then they reneged with no explanation. And in fact, do you know what they said? That's what they said. I got no explanation, nothing with, I told you that's generally my pattern where people classified as black. Yes, we would like to work with you, Gus T, on such and such and such. And then they renege, and I never hear from them again. And you did not hear me come on the broadcasts, name any of these black people and talk bad about them. I published the report on my own, easy to do, no problem, which I could have done to begin with. Kept it moving, but I remember that. Dr. Welsing passed, counter racists do a memorial project. Gus T is not even welcome. I said, no problem. I will remember that. I would expect the same to be true this time around. Counter racist memorial, even if it was in person, I would not be welcome. Can I sit on the back pew and just, no problem. Replace whites. And like I said, at this point, that's already what I expect. We're not cool. I've said that before. Replace white supremacy with justice. And this is exactly a part of what Fuller talked about, because we don't like each other. People classified as black. He talked about that all the time, and I appreciate that so much. We lie so much about all that. I love black people and all that black brother and black sister that makes me want to vomit. Let me tell you about vomit. I got my Fuller archive where he talks about this, so we get my story and then we're going to get our Fuller. I was at a talk yesterday evening. It was already scheduled. I just found out about Fuller's transition, but I just would have said the same thing that I already said. Robust gratitude. So I'm going to this talk, non-white person. What Fuller just say? Moratorium, no sexual intercourse between individuals classified as white and non-white. The person doing the talk, one white parent, one non-white parent, and they were real coy, dare I say deceptive about that. We get an hour into the talk, which was not constructive. It was no Neely Fuller Jr., but who is? We get an hour into the talk. I'm ready to go. They say, well, black culture is, and I perk up. You got my attention. Now, I had been listening before, but I was, oh my God, can we go, VGQ, can we go? Black culture is, and I perk up, so, whoa, black culture, what are they going to say? Let's see, what's it going to say? Neely Fuller Jr., maybe? What you think? Black culture. I'm crossing my fingers. What are they going to say? Rosa Parks. Winnie Mandela. Replace white supremacy with justice. What are they going to say? Black culture. Please replace white supremacy with something constructive. Winnie Mandela. Rosa Parks. End in racism. Say something like that. That's black culture. And they say fried chicken. Afros. I should have known that's what it was going to be, because that's what it always is. The book we're reading right now, Dr. Maya Angelou, book club tomorrow, that book begins with her talking about fried chicken, and it ends with her talking about chicken breast. And a little bit of hair in between. But I should have known. The person speaking, one white parent and one non-white parent, was wearing bell bottoms. So I should have known it was going to be some foolishness with black culture, because it always is. But I had the visual right in my face, like, now you know good and well, bell bottoms in 2025 ain't going to be nothing constructive associated with black culture. Ever. Any hoodles, Fuller is the only person I'm aware of. Let's stop lying about all that. Black culture is some poison. We have been trained not to be constructive. That's why we got to focus on minimizing conflict, which I appreciate so much. I feel like we're so dishonest about that, which just, it really is an obstacle to us replacing white supremacy with justice. The whole purpose, the whole reason why you spent all these decades chatting about all this to begin with. Any hoodles. Audio. Neely Fuller Jr., as I said, one of the few people that I know who talked about this honestly, and not black culture is something to be proud of and celebrate and all that. No, black culture is toxic. We're in a system of white supremacy racism, and we're going to have to make some major corrections to solve this problem with regards to how we conduct ourselves with other people who are classified as black. For Black History Month, can we, first time, last time for Black History Month? First time, last time for Black History Month. the Grandcester, robust gratitude, Neely Fuller Jr.
Because the code says one of the main things you have to keep thinking about is minimizing conflict. You can't avoid conflict because somebody will rob you on the street at gunpoint and shoot you just for being there, or shoot you for having money or not having money. And that person will be black. So you can't avoid that with the kind of setup that the white supremacist has engendered. But you try to minimize conflict, and you definitely minimize it in the way you talk to each other. In fact, recently I've been saying that when black people see each other coming, they should go the other way until they think of something constructive to say. The only time black people are supposed to come in contact with each other is when they have thought of something constructive to say. That's the only time they should approach each other deliberately and open their mouths to say anything, is when the information that they're going to give is going to be helpful to that person or helpful to the person who is talking. In other words, I would ask you, can you help me by giving me some information on such and such a thing that's constructive? Or I have some information that I think you can use that's constructive. Otherwise, this thing about black people hanging out with each other is one of the most dangerous things in the world, because we are loaded with poison. We carry poison around with us all day. And that poison is telling us I cannot stand myself, nor can I stand people that look like me, because I have been carefully trained to think that way.
Now, I'm trying to figure out how I could be a talk show host and employ all this, because it would take about a couple of days before people just quit calling. But I guess
they're seeking constructive information.
Yeah.
See?
Okay.
Yeah, right. Anytime you're talking about replacing white supremacy with justice, or just producing justice, or just trying to produce peace, or trying to keep promises, or doing anything that's constructive, see? That's always legit. If you're helping a person paint a barn, even if you're not talking about something, but you're doing something, you come over to a person's house on a Saturday, and you say, I'm going to help you repair your car because I know a lot about car repairs. All right? So you get out there and help the person. That's constructive activity. But as soon as the conversation starts getting where it's name-calling, or gossiping, or you start nitpicking each other, it's time to leave into action. I have a slogan to capsulize it. First time, last time. Meaning, the first time that a black male hits a black female, that's the time she's supposed to say that it's all over. In fact, she's supposed to let the person know when they first meet, if you ever hit me, it's no point in calling. It's no point in saying that we can do anything from that point on. It's over, and it's over forever. Black females keep saying, what can we do? What can I do and whatnot? You can get a code. And part of that code has to be that I'm not going to take a lick, not the first one. See, the first time's supposed to be the last time. You don't wait on the second one. Because hitting gets good, okay, to the hitter. All right? And black males are full of rage. They don't know who to hit. So they hit the person that's closest to them, the person that they went and picked out and said that they cared about and gave all that information to about, I want to be with you. Now that 6 weeks later, that person winds up being hit? No, that's not ever supposed to happen. For one thing, you're not qualified. No black male is qualified to put his hands on any black female with a belligerence, ever. Because even if we haven't fallen down so much on the job as black males, which we have, our ancestors did. We went around talking about we were kings and queens, some of us say. But we lost. We wound up in chains. Somebody made colossal mistakes. The logic, the record shows that. We can't deny that. But we don't stew in it. We say, what can we do to compensate for it? And we can start by saying, the one thing I don't do is hit the child of that lady who was on that ship, regardless of what she says to me. I'm not in charge of her. She has a boss. She's got the same one that I have, the white supremacist, racist man and racist woman. And we should never forget that. Black males are not in charge of black females. We are partners, equal partners in chains on a ship. Okay?
There are other areas of things that we need to stop doing. I want to outline that in the short time that we have left. The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, a textbook, workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism, white supremacy. Neely Fuller Jr. in studio with me. And when we look at politics, Neely, some of the other issues that we face in relation to each other, skin color is a major one. How do we deal with that?
You look at it as shades of color.
Mm-hmm.
It is shades of color. White is not a shade of color.
Mm-hmm.
It's the absence of color.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about basic black. And black has shades. You can use the word in parentheses if you want to, shades, but it means it's derived from black.
But there are politics.
Brown,
yeah, amongst us.
tan, yellow,
Mm-hmm.
etc.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the racists set it up like they do the conflict between males and females, which is a perennial thing that they do with black people. Conflict between black males and black females. The racists have to keep feeding that.
Mm-hmm.
They have to. That's one of their have-tos. All right? And they also do it with the shades of color when it serves their purposes. Now, they don't always do this. See, sometimes they just clump a bunch of people together and it really doesn't make any difference on account of their geographical location.
Mm-hmm.
But when it is important for them to cause more division, that's one way that they can do it. Just simply pick some people and say, on account of your color shade, your tan, your yellow, and whatnot, and now I will give one benefits more than the other. Sometimes when most of the people look just about the same as far as shade of color, then the racists will use something else like height.
Mm-hmm.
They'll say, well, now this group of people are from a tribe that over a period of time where they were located and the type of food that the people ate made them taller. And this group of people are in what some people might loosely call a pygmy category.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get them fighting. All right? Anything that will create confusion. See, you got to remember the word confusion.
Mm-hmm.
All they want among their victims is total confusion all the time. The ambulance running, the AK-47s firing, the mines being planted, the 9mm popping, the black people running out of the club screaming, the black females throwing themselves across caskets every day, every week, with black bodies lying in there, saying, Lord, what's going to happen? What can we do? Maybe we should burn some candles. That's what the white supremacists want. They set it up, and they set it up so that this happens endlessly. So this is why I say that what do you do about it?
Mm-hmm.
You minimize conflict by minimizing contact. Black people have to tell themselves the truth. We don't like each other. Yet we get in meetings and whatnot and try to proclaim that we do, when the evidence doesn't show it. So you always go by evidence, hard evidence. So you should admit the truth, because that's what you're going to need to start with before you can do anything. Before you can build a spaceship, you have to start with the truth. If you start telling yourself lies, and that's what the code says, is what respect is.
Mm-hmm.
Respect, by definition, compensatory definition, is refusing to lie to yourself and letting all others know that you refuse to lie to yourself. But black people go around asking for respect. They call it dissing, some young people.
Mm-hmm.
Asking for respect or demanding respect from someone else. No one can give you respect except yourself. When you ask another person for respect, you are admitting that that person has your respect.
Mm-hmm. And power over you.
So you just picture this, a person running up and down the street at midnight trying to find that person that ran away with their respect. Saying, I'm going to kill him when I catch him. Because he's got my respect and I can't function without it.
Yeah.
I had it here in my pocket 15 minutes ago, now it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
He stole it.
Mm-hmm.
Respect. See, we don't even have a definition for respect, but we kill each other about it.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Killing each other about something we
don't even have a definition for.
Can't define
it. Can't define it.
Give you another one. Fighting over my turf.
Fighting over my turf.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a non-white person on this planet, you don't own 2 feet of anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's what white supremacy means.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll find a person out there wearing a bandana,
mm-hmm.
talking about, I'm looking for a fella who was over here on my turf, and I'm going to kill him. Why? Because he's on my turf, which means the area that I usually go in. But there are people that come through his area driving oil trucks and whatnot all day, waking his grandmother up at midnight. He doesn't go out there and say, hey, turn these trucks around and don't send no more trucks through my turf. See how narrow the victims become under the system of white supremacy? See, this is why the word nigger just doesn't mean in the white supremacist's mind that the person is black. It means that the person has stingy thinking, niggardly thinking, tight thinking, thinking in a box. You put them in a little box and they can just think in that box. Anything outside of that box, they're completely lost.
So this fight over the definition of the term nigger in Merriam-Webster's dictionary, they got us again.
Got us again. Don't have command of the definition. Now, I have a compensatory definition in the code book.
Which is?
It is a nigger, and I'll paraphrase it, because it's a little long the other way. A nigger is a non-white person who is subject to white supremacy. That's the truth. So people have asked me, do I fit that description? I say yes, but now everything in the code book is supposed to be of constructive value. Otherwise, it's not supposed to be in there. So a person may ask, how is that constructive? For a white person to call you a nigger and you admit that you are one. You give the definition. Now, what have you done when you say the definition of me being a nigger is that I am subject to white supremacy? Now what you are doing is indicting the white people who are white supremacists. You have taken the word and made it an indictment, not of yourself, but just of a description of yourself because of what is being done to you. And then I elaborate on the word nigger by taking it further so that people get a dimension of the implications of the word. I call it a black person is taken under white supremacy and taken through a process of niggerization. So in order to end this process, you have to end white supremacy through codification, and that is the process of deniggerization. If you're looking for a word that's equivalent to the word nigger as applied to a non-white person, it just means the person is a prisoner of injustice. That's all it really means. This is what makes us mad when we hear it. But we can't really put it all together why we are mad.
And we call each other that word.
And when we call each other the word takes on a different meaning altogether. See, or we are recognizing that this is a fellow prisoner. All right? But when the warden comes around and calls you that, yes, you are my prisoner, then that's when we get mad because we know that's the warden. All right?
And that is true.
Yes, and that is true. And that's when you want to rattle the bars.
Still learning context of white supremacy. Robust appreciation for Neely Fuller Jr. A century of attempted counter-racist labor. ProduceJustice.com. Get your books, give them out for Black History Month. Black culture is not fried chicken, box braids, cornrows. That is not black culture. Replacing white supremacy with justice is black culture. Books, bang. Word guide, bang. Study what white supremacy racism is. Gary St. James interviewing Neely Fuller Jr. from, I think, back in the 90s, might even be older than that, but I mean, way back when. Most of that, I don't think he edited or changed it. First time, last time. Counter-racist code, that includes, and he talked about that on a regular basis, not smacking around a black female, non-white female, just because we are disgruntled, mad about the system of white supremacy racism. Like that also, one of the few folks that I hear, especially to hear a privileged, misogynistic, no-count black male who talked about that for years and putting a code out and saying everybody should be talking about that first time, last time. Like we're just not going to do this and have that talked about early. And even this is a part of replacing white supremacy with justice, because we're not supposed to have non-white people being harmed. And that way we don't have to continue to go to people classified as white to solve our disputes. First time, last time. He has so many. That's not even in the 10 stops, right? Although it would certainly be there with stop cursing and fighting and, you know, all the rest of it. But I mean, he has so many important, you know, slogans and bits of codification, really counter-racist codification, that he kind of simplified to make it very easy to remember and apply. Not just to remember no name calling, but that's a pretty easy one that, oh yes, I can apply that. Like I don't have to save up $1,000 to make an investment or go out and do training, go to the gym and get my body in shape, or go to the library and get books and study and train my mind. Maybe it does involve training your mind, because our mind for sure has been conditioned with all that anti-blackness and poison of white supremacy racism. I'm on Coon and Coon and Coon and Tether and Coon and Uncle Tom and Coon. New ones coming and they ain't called black people exclusively. Retrain the brain computer. And even accepting, hey, we have been trained not to like each other. Just what he said. That's why it comes out in so many ways. You got first time, last time. We have been trained not to like each other, to be in conflict with other black people. White people don't even like white people. Fuller talked about that all the time too. They just cooperate to terrorize and dominate the non-white people of the known universe. Anywho's, I definitely, man, I am estranged from non-white C.O.W.S listeners for a variety of reasons, but the conduct around Neely Fuller Jr. specifically is a big part of the reason of my estrangement. None of this is up for conversation. Like, I don't really care what you all think about any of this, so, you know, VGQ, victims guaranteed qualified. But a great part of my estrangement, there's so many folks who, you know, claim that they care about. It was the same thing with Pamela Evans Harris, where there were lots of people who were classified as black and claimed that they cared about Pam so much, and it just hurt because Gus's criticism of the book we were reading or whatever else. I don't even care, and I don't even dignify that with a VGQ. Like, whatever. That's what you get. Same thing with regards to Neely Fuller Jr. As I said, there are people who got upset. Just, you know, Gus, it seems like you're not saying not all white people are racist. I thought it's supposed to be VGQ. It just goes on. It's such a lengthy list of what in the world? Like finding creative ways of making conflict, and it goes under the banner of, I just care about Neely Fuller Jr. so much. Now, I read this email before, but I knew there's going to be a time I reference this email. Like I said, Fuller, I'm just going to keep citing Fuller. You all are going to stand by your work. All of us, in fact, we're all going to stand by our work. That's what Fuller did. Stood on his work, what he said, what he wrote for a century. We're going to do the same. Standing on our work, this right here, revealing truth. And this will help people understand. Now, why does Gus conduct himself? Why does the program operate in the way it does? Oh, I see. So the correct date and timing for this email, I'm going to read it again on March 22nd. Be a third time. Compensatory code system concept, copyrighted material. You got exactly 48 hours to contact Neely Fuller Jr. and or his family member and let them know when you will be returning all of his copyrighted material, audio tapes from the C.O.W.S program of the compensatory code system concept. You mistakenly believe that this is your property and simply because you recorded the shows. That was your first mistake. He is not talking about growing tomatoes on these programs. He is specifically talking about the compensatory concept and all audio derived from these programs falls under the category of copyrighted material. He is the copyright holder and you have no business redistributing and or attempting to make a profit from his recordings. You thought your alter ego, Gus T. Renegade, would get past me? I don't think so. We already know your name is Gus Johnson. You are from Detroit, and we will do whatever it takes to expose your illegal activities, you and your gang of thieves. Now, I'm only including one name because this person is deceased, and she is my homie, the aforementioned late Pamela Evans Harris, is listed as amongst the gang of thieves. Now, these other people are non-white, and they're still alive, so I'm not naming them. Minimize conflict. Yes, minimize conflict. But there are other non-white people named. I'm just, redacting. You all can try to hide behind the internet, but the FBI has an intellectual property department specifically for people like you. And I have already contacted them. They have much better, more sophisticated technology to catch and prosecute criminals like all of you. Failure to contact Mr. Fuller within the allotted time will result in me personally contacting C.O.W.S. Sports and letting them know what you do on your free time. How dare you try to profit from Mr. Fuller's name, voice, using ringtones for sale. I wonder what C.O.W.S. would think of you pirating audio tapes saying white people are the problem and illegally taping Mr. Fuller on your telephone calls. The code says to expose criminals, and that is what I plan to do. Now, I did send this to Mr. Fuller immediately, and that was the end of that. I'm still waiting to hear from the FBI. It's 2013, so they might be backlogged. They went through a couple administrations, so hither and yonder, and then they had to chase Rike Tario around for a little bit, so they might be circling back to Gus T at some point. I will keep you all abreast, but at least at this juncture, I'm still waiting for the feds. But I did send this to Fuller immediately, and the other thing I'm still waiting on is the ringtones. Because I asked about this like way back in 2013, like, where are these Fuller ringtones? Who has these? Like, what does it say? Like, what? I think if I'm going to be accused of all this, at minimum, somebody should send me a free Fuller ringtone. Like, can you make it say whatever you want it to say? Can it first time, last time? First time, last time. Is that how your phone rings? What do they have the ringtone saying? Still learning? Still learning. Still, I've never heard anyone who had a ringtone. I've never seen a ringtone. I didn't find a Neely Fuller ringtone website. Like, man. Now, if that did blow up and somebody made like $1 million off Neely Fuller Jr. ringtones, and Mr. Fuller didn't get any money, that is super lame. And then it's extra lame, they blame me for it. But I have not found the ringtones. Dare I say, as me and Barry Sanders sit in an undisclosed Detroit location, have tricked you all of these years, me and Barry Sanders out here chilling, go to the Detroit Lions games, still hurting about that playoff loss. We're going to bounce back next year. Go Lions. I just tricked you all these years talking about Seattle and all that foolishness. Michigan. Gus Johnson, Michigan. But this sort of thing, like, man, there were people who posted on my page and had said this for years. You know, I first found out about the cows because I was searching for Neely Fuller Jr. and found he had been a guest on your program. That's how I found and started listening to the cows. And people posted on my social media page. It's like, oh my goodness, I thought you had some of the best interviews with Mr. Fuller, and I learned so much. And, you know, you were my favorite host that talked to Mr. Fuller. Ugh. You can put that up there with Negro History Month, Black Culture, and fried chicken. Hey, matter of fact, woo, let me get my 16-year load up. Do you know what I have to say to that? So what? I did not come on the air to poke my chest out and say, woo, that Gus T did some of the best interviews with Neely Fuller Jr. Monstrous. So what? And I'm sure Fuller would say the same. The goal is replace white supremacy with justice. Not, ooh, that colored boy in Seattle is great. Woo, I love being able to chat it up with some Gus T. Like, are you serious? Now, even though I did hear that directly from Fuller. Can I say it again? So what? Replace white supremacy with justice. And I'm going to tell you why. It will never change. I wouldn't care if everyone in the world came back and said, you know what? Gus T did, hands down, undisputed, did the best interviews ever with Neely Fuller Jr. Now, why is that a monstrous from Gus T? So what? We are so retarded. The bar is so low. Metaphor. Half of the people that interviewed Fuller, they haven't even read the book. That's what I mean. Like, woo, you have not really said anything. Saying you did an interview with Mr. Fuller that was at least halfway okay. If you did actually read the book, you do actually know some of these concepts. This is not snitching or talking bad about anybody. You can listen to the interviews, and the host, some of the times, often they will acknowledge, I have never cracked your book. What is this? What? Oh, okay, I got you. Okay, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I ain't read all that. Well, I tell you, I think, you know, it's, man, they got YouTube and that. Who gonna read all that? Who is this Fuller dude, man? Break it down. Just give me the 10, what is it? 10, yeah. Give me the 10 stop. No name, whoa, this could, yeah, you lost me, Fuller. And I've had that. I've had people right here in Seattle, that's what they would get Fuller's book. They would start and get through like 2 pages, and it would be one thing. No name calling black people. Whoa. Now, I didn't see now this coon. Now, wait a minute. No name. Yeah, I'm good. Or the smartest people in the known universe is white folks. I have seen some victims. Man, you want to talk about book burning? Fahrenheit 451. And look. Some of these weren't even people classified as black. Asian people and other non-white, boy, they got to that. They lost it, and then they launched it. See what I did? You see? But I mean, You had to duck like, whoa, wait a minute, you almost cracked me upside my, I cracked that full upside. What do you mean? Why you gonna tell me that no cracker is smarter than I? So you hear what he's gonna say? He's gonna put it in front of God and everybody. Talking about white supremacist smartest people. That's a coon if I ever heard a coon. I'm not reading nothing. Neely, Nelly, Newly, I don't care. But white. And that was the end of that. That's what I mean. Like, it's not, you did the best interview. So, what? Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. It's also nothing to brag about. At least for me personally, two reasons. One, I didn't set out to do great interviews with Fuller. Now, I did consciously set out and say, I think most of these interviews suck because the people seem very unfamiliar with the concepts. I at least think I can do better than that. Mission accomplished. But that's not what I set out for. I set out for, where are we now? White guests only. That's what I said from jump. I'm excited to talk to these white people. Like, yeah, that's great. Learned a ton from Fuller, but I mean, Fuller wrote that book, Questions for White People. That's what I said. That's what we do not do. I've heard us call in and get rowdy with Fuller, and you don't know what you're talking about. The problem is white people. That's what I came to do, not... We're going to see if we can do the best interviews possible. Matter of fact, I can add to that list. It's nothing to brag about. We're so cowardly. I remember we had Neely Fuller Jr. as a guest on the context of white supremacy repeatedly. I think we piled up at least 8 visits. I didn't have a phone or a computer. Now that is something that I bragged about and stood by my work. We did 200 programs, 8 of them at least with Neely Fuller Jr., where I did not own a phone or a computer. That's why I don't take no lip from none of y'all. Like, real talk, man, for the longest, you all had way more resources than me. Like, you don't need to come and give me no criticism about nothing. You got a phone and a computer. You are light years ahead of Gus T. Get to work, man. You ain't got to come criticize nothing about what I'm doing. And that's still that. Whew, it's that attitude times like a billion now. But I remember it was non-white people who call themselves, I don't agree with Neely Fuller Jr. You don't know what he's talking about. VGQ. Victims Guaranteed Qualified, but they had a phone and a computer and too cowardly to dial 202-484-5164. Too cowardly. You got a phone. You can call Fuller and set up an interview. Do the same thing I did. I don't have no other term for that but cowardly. I saw the same thing with Dr. Welsing. Did all those programs with Dr. Welsing. No phone, no computer. You all got a phone. You can pick up the phone and call Dr. Welsing. Fuller answered his phone. I told you, I'm not talking to all y'all. Fuller answered his phone every day. Every day. Any hoodles. But no, I'm not commiserating with victims of white supremacy. I did not do that with Dr. Welsing, and I for sure am not doing that now. This is, in fact, this is a lifetime illustration of estrangement. I'm not commiserating with non-white people. What I'm doing, since I actually talked about Fuller after Dr. Welsing passed, I talked to Fuller and I said, oh man, what would you, want people to say and all that, and you pass? Well, I guess he won't be answering the phone. Get busy doing some work. Replace white supremacy with justice. That's even telling. He didn't say, dang, won't get to see Redskin, that man looked like Jaden McDaniels going to get it. That's not what he said. That's not what he said. That's not what he said. I ain't going to get to see Bron James and Luka Doncic get it together, man. That's not what he said. That's not what he said. He said, well, he won't be answering the phone anymore. Replace white supremacy with justice. Not sitting around commiserating with victims on the counter-racist grind, dare I say, on my assignment. We had to broadcast today to talk about Fuller because we do not have free time moving forward. We are here tomorrow for the book club, Dr. Maya Angelou. We are here Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, neutralizing workplace racism, as Fuller talked about all the time. One of the few non-white people that I know who regularly and with great detail and precision talked about racism in the workplace, and then so generous and humble in giving up his time to talk to non-white people anytime. We called them on early Sunday morning and all other time periods, just suggestions, problems people are having in the workplace, and he would do his best to, give his thoughts on how to solve problems in the workplace, try to carry that forward. We've been doing that for years on Fridays. Compensatory call-in this Saturday. In fact, that also, Fuller paid attention to the news. He did not take that position that, oh man, the news is full of lies. I'm not going to watch no news or listen to no news or read no news. Exact opposite. I'm going to read, I'm going to study, I'm going to see how they're using words when they report this information. I'm going to see what they report, what they don't report. He paid attention for his entire existence and would save newspaper articles and different reports for years and reference them when he talked about white supremacy racism. Do our best to emulate that on Saturdays, compensatory call-in. Here this Sunday, live time, Fuller talked about use of time and energy. Do you prop your feet up? Jalen Hurts, Pat Mahomes, they're going to do it in the Super Bowl, get my popcorn on the counter-racist grind. In fact, we talked about brain damage, tackle football, and racism during the Super Bowl when Jalen Hurts played Pat Mahomes. 2023. We did this before. Talked to Dr. Jessica Wallace, suspected racist. She said, man, y'all in here wasting up my whole Sunday, and I'm trying to watch during Super Bowl, man. I'm Alabama, University of Alabama alum, or she teaches there. In fact, Roll Tide. I'm in here rooting for Jalen Hurts and Philadelphia Eagles, and y'all waste up my whole Sunday talking about brain damage and football and all that nonsense. We had callers dial in and said, wait a minute, Dr. Wallace, what you mean you going back to watch the game? Like, how you do all this research on tackle football and brain damage, and then you still gonna go watch the game? He said, man, it impacted me, but Jalen Hurts is with us, man. I'm at Alabama and Roll Tide, man. I'm going to watch the game, man. Get out of here. I'm going to watch the game. I said, don't that seem hypocrite? Like, it's brain damage and you still going to go and root for Jalen? Like, what? What's going on here? Like, wait a minute. And Dr. Wallace had already told us black parents, black coaches, and black football players like Jalen Hurts have a lower understanding of concussions than white parents, white football players, and white football coaches. Not that that's super stunning, but I mean to have it in scientific terms, you have research that backs this, that would maybe be a reason. Well, maybe we don't want to get too tied up in the Super Bowl. I mean, brain damage. I need my brain. Imagine if Fuller had played football and he got all that brain damage. Now he still, I go. What is it? Learn. Oh, yeah, still learn. That's it. There it is. I got to write that down, Sarah. Still learning. Yeah, that's it. Still learning. That's what I say. Still, what is it again? Oh, yeah, still. Man, come on. Come on. I said if he had drank liquor, chased women, been non-constructive, so he wasn't healthy, couldn't have been having his faculties, all that edited, upgrade the code book later in life. On his assignment, and we have not been, and that is one thing. One more Fuller audio to include. Mr. Fuller was serious. He was on his assignment, and he modeled that all the time. He acknowledged we so frequently are not. He wrote it in the code book. We are silly about things that are serious. We are serious about things that are silly. That's not every single black person, but wow, it is way too many of us, especially when it comes to replacing white supremacy with justice. That talk yesterday where it was black culture is fried chicken and afros, it was so much joking and snickering. It should have been Cat Williams, man. It really should have been Cat Williams. Just, get to, or put Chris Rock up there, It really is not that much funny if we're talking about, Tamir Rice came up. Like, what's funny about Tamir Rice? What's funny about that? Mr. Fuller was not all about he did tell a joke. He could certainly be funny. The Zapsters is funny, but the vast majority, ain't nothing funny about first time, last time. Ain't nothing funny about the 10 stops. He was not out trying to joke and entertain black people. He tried, I think, very much tried to be serious in modeling. We should be trying to solve this problem and ASAP. And he acknowledged that's a big part of the problem. So frequently, we, non-white people, victims of white supremacy, we are not serious. And that's something I even brought up. I said a long time ago. I said, man, Fuller's work has been out for decades at this point. This is not something that was just published like his code book or what have you in the early 2000s, after 9/11 or something like that, or after O.J. Simpson. Like, he published this book in the 80s. Like, it for real has been almost 50 years since this book first came out, and much less he's been out talking and doing lectures and all of that. Like, it's loads of people, non-white people, who have been exposed to this content who just have not changed their conduct, have not seriously appreciated the material concepts that he talks about. Just no name calling, like the volume of people that have heard Mr. Fuller, and that what's the metaphor? They're in one ear and out the other. They are super familiar with Neely Fuller Jr., and then they turn right around and it's tether this and coon that and all the rest of it. That's not that people haven't had exposure. I view that we are not serious about solving this problem. And I've noted the same thing where people, they will contact me, Neely Fuller, right? Saying what my man say, Fuller Rights, name calling. But people will contact me, Fuller this, Fuller that, and then turn around and go right into name calling. Like I said, that stood out so immediately when I heard Fuller. It was Mr. Johnson, Miss Jackson, Mrs. Wilson. Every time it would be calling people by their name. I'm not making up no titles that they have never applied to themselves, that, I just want to stick on them some old label. Never doing that. Never doing that. I'm going to call the person by their name, and frequently with Mrs., Mr., the doctor, if they had that sort of title, every time. And I so appreciated that. We could at least model that. And I pointed that out with people like, wait a minute, man, like, you're contacting me on a regular basis, unsolicited, unwanted often, but you're contacting me under the guise that you all about Fuller. You are name calling. It's not name calling just, it's name calling specifically black people. And when I pointed this out one time, I had a person write me, well, I'm still learning. Now, you can say that. I do not accept that. Like, man, hey, come on, man. How many times do you need to hear Fuller say, stop name calling? That's not somebody saying, give me $1 million. That's not Jim Jones saying, sign over the deed to your house to me. Just hey, can we stop calling Leroy a coon? You're asking a lot, Fuller. Like, man, I'd rather give you the deed to be truthful. Like, man, something coonish about Leroy. I can't even utter his name without saying coon. Like, man, no name calling black people. Whew, that is a bridge too far, Fuller. That is a bridge too far. Worthy of great pity. As I said, Fuller spoke about this specifically on one of his many visits to the cows, and even early on in talking about this one. I had played this one for a while and thinking about this just, anytime. I even kept this in mind going to California now. What is all this for? Oh, Jonestown. That's correct. All right. Let's stay focused so we're not sidetracked on other things. What is all of this about? Staying focused on that. I think that's something that Fuller his entire existence exemplified that in staying focused on his assignment, really our assignment, replacing white supremacy. What's that mission? Replace white supremacy with justice. Seeming some days like he might have been the only one. We got every other sort of mission. I'm trying to go and clean up at the Grammys or whatever. We got every other sort of, mission or goal in the universe except replace white supremacy with justice. And that's why we go through another Black History Month where we have not solved this problem. The seriousness specifically, Fuller talked about, this is right here at the context of white supremacy. Neely, and he started it with The Godfather. Now, certainly reading is more important than watching television, but that is another one of his beloved films. 50-year anniversary of the sequel to The Godfather last year. He starts off giving his counter-racist logic through the lens of Mario Puzo's Godfather. This is from his seventh visit to the context of white supremacy, nigh on 15 years past.
See what I mean?
Yes, sir.
See, we got to learn to be businesslike. Michael Corleone understood that. Said, Senator, are you going to get me that license for the gaming thing? That's what he wanted to know. Said, I just moved to Nevada. I'm moving. The Corleone family is moving our operations out here in Nevada. And the reason I'm talking to you is not all this howdy-do and handshake and all that stuff that goes with the politics of it, I know. I'll go through that little ritual for the sake of whatever, go out there and have dinner with the ladies, all that. But what I really want to know is, can I get the gaming license for the state of Nevada so that I can open my gambling operations here with your consent and your backing, which is what I need. That's what we're in here for. And the senator started telling him about, well, no, I don't even like you, and so therefore I ain't going to do it and all like that. He says, okay, these negotiations are over. I'm not getting what hey, the cake and the cookies and the liquor and all that. I mean, that's not what this is about. It's not even about whether or not you like me. It's about, I want the gaming license. And if you don't give it to me in this meeting, I got other ways of getting it. So goodbye. See what I mean?
Yes, sir. I
don't need to talk to you no more. I'm talking to somebody else. So, we have to learn to be codified. I mean, staying focused. See what I mean? That's what that means. Staying focused, not be just hopping all over the place. Do the same thing the same way every time. That's what codification is. Say the same thing over and over again. and always know the reason why you're doing something. Somebody invites me to a party, I say, what for? You know? Now, I'm going to give you kind of a vulgar illustration of what I meant. Some years ago, I was down in a meeting that was supposed to be about black people, Student National Medical Association, helping the black students get through medical school. That's what it was about. It was sponsored by a number of pharmaceutical companies. I did know that. So they had, lots of money to spend on it. And it was down in New Orleans. We were down on Canal Street and whatnot in a big hotel and whatnot. The thing's going to last about a week. So I noticed that a lot of time was spent. People was down there in, the ballroom area, just kind of gliding around all dressed up and walking around with champagne glasses and all the rest of it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just looking at people and whatnot. I said, now, what are we here for? That's what I'm asking myself. Here to come up with formulas and whatnot, codification, really, for how we're going to get black students into med school and get them completed, and get them funded, all this stuff. That's what all this is about. This is the purpose for being here. But what I'm looking at is a lot of people having what they call a good time, see what I mean? But that's not what has been announced, okay? See, I don't have anything against that, but see, do what you say you're there for, okay? So, some black guy, about three of us standing there talking. We stand there talking in the lobby, see, and I was trying to find the lady who had brought me down there, and so that I could ask her when would I was going to get another talk, because I'd made about a 30-minute talk, and that had been the day before, and it looked like I was going to be down the rest of the week, and I wasn't going to get another chance to talk, because, see, I'm all business when I'm on these, so, and that was years ago, okay, now, so one guy came up, and we were just standing there looking at the people. I mean, just gliding across, the room and whatnot, chandeliers and all that. And the guy said, there was about three of us standing there talking. So one guy, he might have been a little tipsy. He said, man, there's some fine bitches around here, man. I'm some fine broads. Say, man, I'm looking at them, man. I'm going to get me one of them and take them up to my room, And, I'm going to fuck one of these worlds, He was just talking, so we were just standing there kind of listening to him. So finally he drifted off. And the guy standing there talking to me because we'd been talking about the racial thing and all like that. And so he kind of hesitated and didn't say nothing. And I didn't say nothing. We kind of stood there for a moment because the guy had drifted off. Now he's gone on and off. I guess trying to chase one of them women he was talking about. So the fellow who was standing there said, you know what? He said, that's the only motherfucker that knows what he's here for.
Wow.
All the rest of these people gliding around here, profiling and whatnot, he ain't got no idea what they're here for. See, now he's half tipsy, but he knows what he's here for. See, he ain't shamming. He's considering all the rest of this profiling as a bunch of nonsense. He's going to get him one of them women, and he's heading for the hotel room upstairs on the elevator as soon as he possibly can.
Wow.
See, everybody else is walking around here acting like they're doing something. A whole week of acting, trying to solve black people's problems. Say, no, man, they ain't here to solve nothing. I'm gonna get me a woman and get up here in that bed and lock the door. And that bell rang with me instantly because I knew that he was telling it like it was. That's the only MF here that know what he's here for. Now that's not exactly the truth because that's wasn't what I was there for, but but I got the point.
Right.
Yeah. See, and it's a lot of that has been going on down through the decades. Like I say, now I ain't got nothing against, people relaxing and all like that. But I'm saying, make it clear what you're doing. Codification is about clarity. Man.
Not confusion. I think that was something Mr. Fuller talked about so consistently for the duration of the time that he was speaking about, writing about, thinking about replacing white supremacy with justice, is that racist man, racist woman, racist child, they are about confusion, keeping non-white people confused about everything, confused about what it means to be classified as white, confused about the system of white supremacy, racism, and thus everything else in the known universe. Eliminating confusion. That's what it should look like, the journey to universal man, universal woman. I think those are super important concepts as well in terms of what is the destination. What are we trying to be, as opposed to black kings and African queens and all that? Like universal woman, universal man. That is the goal. What a lofty concept, right? All right. But I think that's so important too. The shamming. Because I talked with Fuller about that as well. And he said that, for all these years and such, he said he had someone who spoke to him, and they said, all these meetings and such back, when Mr. Fuller was younger, and he was going out and doing in-person lectures and talks and such. He said it was another victim of racism who said, all these folks who come out and do these meetings and such, they are not about no replacing white supremacy with justice. They are shamming. And VGQ, Victims Guaranteed Qualified, that is allowed. And Fuller said, I understand that, it's an entertainment, almost like going to church for some people where they get to wear their outfit, or they just like, the arguments or being out of the house, the festivities. They like squabbling with other black people. Sport enjoyed by all. That's one of his greats. But he said, yeah, I have an understanding of that. And that is certainly my conclusion for the folks who listen to his lectures or weekly programs or whatever the case may be, that, like I said, hey, with all of the people that have heard Fuller at this point, the teeny itsy bitsy step that we could make, I'm at least not going to name call black people. With Dr. Wells, you could get too, because Dr. Wells would appreciate that too. I miss Dr. Wells. Yeah, we pour a teaspoon of tequila out for Dr. Wells too, sobriety and all that. But I got to. You got coons and you got coons, and then we even got to the tethers. See, we got a long list of these Negroes. You got to, like, man. Woo! It's been a lot of shamming. A lot of shamming where we are not serious about replacing white supremacy with justice. And that's another contributing factor as to why I am not commiserating with the other non-white people as well. Just my memories specifically, it's not just the name calling, because that does really bother me. Even name calling Kirk Franklin, because I don't have nothing to do with Kirk Franklin. But that does really bother me because Fuller was so explicit about that. For decades, right? That's not something he kind of flip-flopped on. And, well, man, I'm reconsidering. Like, nah, man. Like, he come to a conclusion about that, man. And have so many people who've heard him, and they still sit around and, name call black people exclusively. Not that it would be any better to be name calling non-black people, but dang, they don't even believe in equality. It's just gonna name call Leroy all day long, man. For me, anyway. I do. It is mandatory to include, just because, we had so much contact with Mr. Fuller all over the years, and at least at this juncture, things staying as they are, I don't think there'll be another moment like this, at least not in the foreseeable future, where some non-white person of some stature who has talked about racism, white supremacy, counter-racism, they pass away, and they have a connection to the cows because they made a lot of visits here, and we talk to them a lot, and that sort of thing. I talk to them a lot. Like, I don't think that'll be the case with any other non-white people because we have that white guest only policy, and I don't really get down with non-white people. So this will, I said some years back in 2010, I wanted to be the Michael Corleone of counter-racism. It's in the archives. And I thought about that over the years, like, oh, you should have picked, a non-white person, not a killer, gangster, someone about justice. But there was a thought process involved, and Fuller is fond of the Godfather films. In one respect, at this point, Michael Corleone is here. One, everyone hated Michael Corleone. Oh my God. Everyone hates Gus T. Renegade. No problem. Replace white supremacy with justice. I didn't have that in my brain computer at the time, but like, oh my God. Everyone, like Michael Corleone's children hate him. His wife hates him. Like, oh my God. But ruthless in executing the plans. Successfully executing. You just have to switch it. Not criminal plans, counter-racist plans. Producing justice. Eliminating white supremacy en route to producing justice. Ruthlessly executing plans to that end. But Michael Corleone did not have like great people skills at all. I do not either. I'm not even interested in that. So this will be, I suspect, the last time for a while to be, ooh, did you hear that such and such passed? Weren't y'all cool? Because no, I'm not cool with no other non-white people. Not even close. It would just be, oh, they passed, blah, 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 but it ain't had nothing to do with us. Like, just, okay, got it. Replace white supremacy with justice. And a part of that, and a part of why I'm not commiserating, I remember we had a listener who contacted me and said, oh man, Gus, Mr. Fuller just told me. He said someone contacted him, could have been one of you all, to say that you had a guest on the cows, and they said that Fuller got all of that counter-racist material from him. And you endorsed it, like, yep, that's right, ain't asked no questions, and whoop, whoop, whoop. So what in the world? Who was this? I don't know, but just call him and ask about it. So I called, and Fuller confirmed this. I said, well, who said this? Let's get to that. Then we can ascertain if this is true. Then I can go see, like, what? Who said this? And Mr. Fuller said, they didn't tell me who said this. That's what I would expect from non-white people, even those of you who listen to Mr. Fuller, because I've had that happen repeatedly. Whatever differences or what have you, different views, perspective that we have, it will be someone else made a comment on racism, white supremacy, counter-racism. You all got upset at me for how I responded to what this non-white person had to say. They didn't even reference exactly who is the non-white person who had this commentary. Let's even verify to see if it's true what they're alleged to have said, and then how Gus responded or didn't respond. I've seen this happen repeatedly, and have Fuller telling people, someone taking credit for everything he did, and Gus is endorsing this. We don't even get a name of who said this. That's what you can do for me. You appreciate hearing Mr. Fuller on the cows, the many times he visited, or you learned something, Gus did the best job. Who said this? Hey, man, I'm all about let's stand by our work. I would love to play it back. Now, who said this? Who said this? Let's stand by our work, 2025, at the funeral. Let's come stand by our work. I said, Fuller got all that from me. Please. Any hoodles. Replace white supremacy with justice is the goal. I think I said that tons of times. I say that all the time. I say that at the end of every program. That is the goal, so we never get lost. It's not gripes and feuds, because people don't love Gus T. I don't care about none of that. I don't care about none of that. I don't care about none of that. I'm just making sure everyone is aware we're not cool. We are estranged. Who is we? All of the people who are classified as not white. We are not cool. Replace white supremacy with justice. And I had to remember, it was one more. I was reminded the CTE, racism, and football. I love, love, love. Fuller talked about our lack of seriousness. He said, look at us playing football. And they throw the football there. I hope to God you do not see that Sunday at the Super Bowl. We'll be broadcasting live, so you have a chance to not pay attention. But I hope you do not see that on Sunday. Pat Mahomes trotting towards the goal line, get excited, and throw the ball down at the 5-yard line so he can do the funky chicken to the goal line. And say, oh, my God, they Chiefs and lost the three-peat because he did the funky chicken to her. Come on. But he said, that's your black. Pat Mahomes got a white parent, so maybe he wouldn't do that. He got one white parent and one non-white parent, so maybe he wouldn't do that. But your black male, Leroy, woo, we're going to throw it down and do the funky chicken. Hopefully not Sunday. But, man, it has been wacky just reviewing all of the different times Mr. Fuller hung out and all of the wonderful things that I was able to learn that he shared on the broadcast and such. Even his business-like approach, like Fuller was not on all that. I started with that audio purposely, man. Fuller, I don't like anybody in here. That is exactly how I step in every program. I don't like anybody in here. I don't like anybody. I don't have to call nobody no name. You see, you get the same thing accomplished. I don't have to name call anybody, but I make it known. We ain't cool. Not even close. Back up off me. All of y'all. Back up off me. Like I said, I'm not feeling none of that. Oh, you did the best interviews. Back up off me. Replace white supremacy with justice. I don't have to name call nobody. Same thing. Spirit of Fuller. Don't call me brother. We ain't even cousins. We ain't even friends. We ain't even neighbors. Back way up. Back way up. Back way up. Replace white supremacy with... Hey, who said that? That's what we can get to instead of all that brother and... Blah, blah, blah. Who said that? Fuller got all that from me. Who is out bragging? Who said that? Find out who said that, and then we can go back and look. We do that immediately. Who said that? Stand by our work. That's what we can do in 2025 on the way to being universal man, universal woman. Stand by your work. Any hoodles. I remember I had someone, they told me to my face right here in Seattle. Said, look at here, Gus T. I'm going to tell you. Mr. Fuller comes on the cows. I love it. I learned so much. He is the best. ProduceJustice.com. I got my word guide. I got my code book. Wow, I've even called Fuller after I heard him on the program and asked him questions. He is the best. I said, I know, right? Isn't he great? Right. ProduceJustice.com. And then they turned around and said, when Fuller is not there, the cows is lame and worthless. Oh, I would never listen. And Fuller is not on. I will never listen to your program again. Dang. I thought Dr. Wellesley was on what, I mean, like, okay. That wasn't enough. They had to come back and say this repeatedly. Now, after the second or third time, wait a minute. Do I send you links to the program? No. I want to make sure that I remind you. I love it. Say, cool nigga. I remember. I am reminded. Thank you. Yes, I'm reminded. Worthless Negro from Virginia. Yes. However, I was reminded in my worthlessness. I said, dang, didn't we do this before? CTE, racism, and football? Yes, we did. In 2023, we did the exact same thing. And I said, wow, I had to remember all that was a part of that. So way back, rewind, February, Black History Month, right now, in fact, 2023. Matter of fact, I might even pull out the calendar so that I can look at it precisely. The whack. Oh no, look at it. All right, from the calendar. The day by day blow by was we were on the air February 9, which is a Thursday. Book club. Black Man in Brazilian Soccer. Fuller specifically, I started with his audio. Fuller said, study everything. He said, read all those books. He said, I, in my confusion, used to think Brazil had no racism. That was the place that I could run and hide from white people. Har. He laughed at that himself. That is laughable. Pele is in his grave cracking up laughing at that one. Brazil? What? They rape black males down there systematically. Still, probably. But we were reading that on that Thursday. The 10th, February 10th, that Friday, we had Neutralizing Workplace Racism every week. Neely Fuller Jr., focusing on labor. That Saturday, the 11th, compensatory call-in, news updates. That Sunday, the 12th, we were live with the so-called Super Bowl. Dr. Jessica Wallace, suspected racist, CTE and racism. And she also said black males are most likely to get a concussion off the field. And I asked specific details about that, and she said, well, because the black males, you got to name call Leroy, and don't you look at me, coon, and you stepped on my foot. They got to do all that black males are very likely to get a concussion off the field. I said, whoa, Neely Fuller Jr., minimize conflict, and he got no fighting in the 10 stops. That's double whammy. But that was Dr. Jessica Wallace, suspected racist during the Super Bowl. Monday, February 13, we had Dr. Kassan, admitted racist. That's another one that drives some people loony. Oh, you're saying admitted racist. VGQ. I don't have to do no name calling, but that's, again, we're not cool. Back up off me. White guests only. You go out and call white people suspected racist. And, hey, you can take your not all white people is racist hind parts and beat it. No name calling there either. That's mine. That's my phrase now. Especially at this point, this is like a baton pass. That's my phrase, and I'm weaponizing it for totally different purposes. You can take your not all white people hind parts and beat it. That's not even name calling. See how cool I am with language? Woo! Not all white people is racist hind parts and beat it. We had admitted racist Dr. Kassan as a guest on the program on Monday, February 13, 2025, and she detailed why she is an admitted racist. So you can take that up with her if there's something incorrect about it. I hopped on the plane on February 14. There was some deliberateness about that. They were giving out chocolate, Welsing moment, and everything. And the email that I just read, do you know where Gus Johnson touched down on February 14 and they were giving out chocolate? Detroit, Michigan. Boy, I had to go to my hometown. Gus Johnson had to go to his hometown. I got my connecting flight February 13, got into Buffalo on the 13th. They had the trial of Peyton Gendron on February 15 in Buffalo. I was there live. They had the disturbance in the courtroom, and then I broadcasted live that evening. When I went back and looked at that schedule, like, wow, did that happen? We broadcasted on the 9th, the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, the 13th. I caught a flight to Buffalo on the 14th, was at the trial on the 15th, and broadcasted that evening. Whew. Counter-racist grind might have been constructive, and I don't think Mr. Fuller was on any of those programs, but we did have what I said from the beginning. The goal was not, I came to do the best interviews with Neely Fuller Jr. No, the goal was, let's take Fuller's work and get at these white people. Any hoodles. We will do it again. It'll almost be a similar schedule. Different subject matter, but different schedule. Super Bowl, brain damage, and racism. I can't wait. Any hoodles, let's see. Did I get anything else? I reckon that's it for the time being. I did feel on the one hand like, I don't know, I feel like I play a lot of Neely Fuller Jr. audio because we have so much and he produced so much. I feel like I play a lot of Neely Fuller Jr. audio all the time anyway. So just us being on the air, we would be, recognizing, celebrating the long life and times of Neely Fuller Jr. just by being on the air. We would probably hear his audio just as we normally would. So we would just have to be on the air, which we will be tomorrow and Friday and Saturday and Sunday and I believe Monday as well. So we'll just be here and we'll have many opportunities to hear some more audio. Remember Neely Fuller Jr. The main thing, like I said, at least in my view, gratitude. There should be massive gratitude for his time, and he was so good. Mr. Fuller could have been chilling with a Victory Garden, man, growing like, cucumbers, zucchini, asparagus, garlic, ginger, making tea, man, peppermint, chilling in his golden years, man. Like, I'm done. I did, my part, and you young whippersnapper. And y'all say, I don't know what I'm talking about. Hey, have at it. He could have done that easily and put his feet up and said, don't bother me. Don't call me about nothing. I don't have no time, and you're not going to run up my phone bill and all that. Man, Fuller was on his assignment. Par excellence, man. Par excellence. Just what a bravo. Robust appreciation and gratitude for Neely Fuller Jr. Did more. I couldn't even say he did his part. He did like his part, Leroy's part, Lakeisha's part, Devontae's part. Like, you could probably, man, come on. That's even a little bit embarrassing, man. Like, Fuller did a lot. He didn't have no iPhone. He didn't have no TikTok page, man. Like, come on. Replace white supremacy. Put some at minimum. That's what I say. At minimum, we can do 30 days. We can do 30 days. No name calling black people. We could do that for Fuller. Yes. Just 30 days. For 30 days. No tether, no coon, none of that. Lay off Kamala Harris for 30 days. She's not even in office no more. Thank God Obama is done. So we're all of them. Lay off all of them for 30 days. Al Sharpton, Benjamin Crump, we lay off all of them for 30 days. 30 days. Can we give that for Fuller? 30 days? Because did he earn that much labor? He asked us. He made a recommendation. Can we at least try that? 30 days. No, it's Black History Month. We could double whammy it. Carter G. Woodson, Neely Fuller Jr. We not going to name call black people for the next 30 days. Just we put that on Neely Fuller Jr. No name calling black people. We can't do all 10 stops because I still got to be discourteous. I can still be discourteous with Leroy, but I'm not going to call no names. We'll see if we can get any traction on that one, at least for a little while. At least for, I said 30 days, man. I didn't even say the whole year, man. I said, if they can do dry January, we can do no name call in February. It's the shortest month, man. I think we can, in fact, maybe we could even pull over. We could go all the way to March 5th, maybe. Do the full 30, March 5, no name calling. We'll see. I'm not going to hold my breath. But we'll see. Let's see. I think I got producejustice.com. 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 Always nervous because, we are not really cool. And I didn't really come to commiserate. See, I didn't give out the number. I didn't come to commiserate with you all. It's a person for the hand up. See, I'm caught. It's like, ew, I'm gonna, I don't know. Oh, okay. Right on. Maybe they didn't have anything that constructive to say. Right on. We can proceed. We will be here for the book club tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Neutralizing Workplace Racism, Friday. Compensatory colleges, every day, normal time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Hopefully constructive, worthy of folks' time and energy and gratitude. That is the word, gratitude. And if anything, like real talk, man, be serious. I don't come in here fiddling around, name calling, all that. In fact, man, we talk to white people. More of that to come, man. Be serious about solving the problem, man. If Fuller did not do all that just to sound cool or whatever, he was trying to solve the problem and put it in capital letters, man. He was on his assignment. Put that in capital letters. That's what we can do. If Fuller meant something and we really appreciate what he had to say, what he wrote, and him taking all that time out of his schedule, like I said, he could have been gardening, he could have been chilling, he could have been napping, spending time with his attempted family, he had offspring, he could have been doing anything, hanging out and talking about counter-racism for all that time. If that meant something to people classified as black victims of white supremacy, well then, let's get serious about solving this problem. And hey, the easy one, he said that just a little bit of codification, a little bit of minimizing conflict with other non-white people, a little bit of not name calling other victims of racism, we would have made astronomical progress. He believed that, and I think that's true too. No name calling black people victims of white supremacy. Matter of fact, get the whole 10 stops in one more time. Stop snitching, and that's specifically not sharing information on non-white people victims of white supremacy for reasons of personal gain. Stop name calling. Stop cursing. Stop gossiping. Stop being discourteous. Stop stealing. Stop robbing. Stop fighting. Stop killing. And stop squabbling. Easy to implement, and I think it would make a big impact. None of that even involves being in love with Gus T. Renegade, Leroy, or any of the other black people, as there's not a whole lot to love about us. It's just about minimizing conflict with other non-white people. You don't have to buy a Zapster either. In fact, he didn't even say if you got 2 or 3 of them that you have to return them. Keep mine for sure. ProduceJustice.com. 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 They don't let you return the Zapsters. ProduceJustice.com. Creator, we ask that you help us remain patient with other black people, victims of white supremacy. We ask that you help us remain patient with ourselves. Remind us to demonstrate the highest levels of black self-respect at all times, in all places, each and every time we are in contact with another black person. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. No name calling black people. Next 30 days, let's see if we can get to March 5. No Tether, no Coon, no Sellout, no Uncle Tom, no Fullerite. No name calling black people. No gossiping. No throwaway offspring. We will catch Fuller on the way out.
And from the late 1960s, after the death of Martin Luther King and the riots and the upheavals and all like this, and black people with their fists in the air and all like that, and trying to stumble and fumble and find their way and get focus, the white supremacists made a blueprint and put it into action. And that is, I'm going to have these people so confused, they don't even know what they started out to do. And by the late 1970s, they had just about completed it. And we've been on that ever since. And you mentioned something very important. They are more comfortable than ever. But see, it's like making gorillas comfortable in a cage, or monkeys, or pandas. You still got them in a cage, but they're comfortable. See, so give him some bling bling. It's like giving an animal a brand new car and training the animal to ride up and down the street in it. And then you stand back and point at the animal. Like one white man said in the late 1950s. He said he doesn't care what kind of car a Negro has. He said he's still a nigger. And when he rides by in a shiny car, to him, it's just a monkey in a car. White people built the car, put a monkey in it, trained the monkey to drive the car, so now you're looking at a monkey in a car. See, but black people don't see themselves that way. But this is how the white supremacists see us, and they are the ones who run our business. And we have to know that when they look at us, that's what they see. That's what they see. That's what they see. And at a subliminal level, what they see begins to spill over into our brains so that we, at a subliminal level, see each other that way. And indirectly see ourselves that way.
Nigga, you so brainwashed.
I'm a victim,
No
brother.
problem. You're a victim.
Yeah. I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning.
Shut up.
The man has programmed my condition. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.